Radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network.
All right. Good evening. How is everybody? All right. Today it's Fade to Black, by the way. Today's Thursday, April 18th, 2024. I am your host, Jimmy Church. We're closing out the week with a show that has been in the works for over 10 years. Tonight, Brit Elders is with us. I'm very excited about the show. And we've had an amazing week here on Fade to Black with James Beechin and Lynn Katai and Leslie Mitchell-Clark. Tonight, Brit is with us. And tonight is my Friday. I can't imagine a better way to wrap up the week than with Brit Elders. And you can help support us in what we do around here. And get yourself some new clothes. Get yourself a Fade to Black T-shirt. There's 2 shirts. There's 2 ways to get them. The links are below. And become a Fade or not. Get yourself some of this. It's what I need right now. You have no idea what Brit and I just went through. So anyway, some Fade to Black coffee. My picture's on it. It's that good. River Moon Fade to Black blend with your Game Changer membership. All right. We've got a lot to discuss tonight. And normally I would do just a big intro and all of that. But I'm very excited to have Brit here finally. And she is an author. She's a documentary filmmaker. She has traveled the world. She has spent over 50 years researching, investigating, documenting, traveling for our community. Her and her husband, Lee, are game changers and have guided me to who I am and where I am today. There's BritElders.com, and she is also the CEO of ShirleyMacLaine.com, and you can check all of that out. The links are below and over on social media and on our website. And without a long introduction that she so much deserves, but it's going to take away from my talk time, I want to welcome for the first time to Fade to Black, Brit Elders.
Oh, Jimmy, thank you. That was beautiful.
You've been introduced so many, you've heard it before and all of that, but, this is my time. I'm not going to take away any precious seconds. But we were talking about this now. Let me not get ahead of myself. You've got to get the first-time guest disclaimer. So let's get that out of the way so we can start the show. Which is this. Brit, it's just you and I sitting on my couch having a conversation as friends. Where the conversation starts, it starts. Where it ends, but we're going to end as friends. We're already friends, but we're still going to end as friends. You have to accept so we can do the show.
I absolutely accept.
That's the Brit that I know. Okay. So we have to tell everybody what just happened. Because that was pretty crazy. Okay. That was pretty weird. So Brit and I were doing sound check and okay. Well, so anyway, we're just doing our thing, and I'm telling her the story that all of you have heard about me and the camo dudes and the Men in Black, right? And Palmdale. And as I'm telling her this story, boom, power goes out. And I'm sitting in the studio, it's black. And when that happens, it happens so suddenly, right? And I'm here in the dark, everything is gone. And I thought, okay, how long? And it took about 3 minutes. Now, this was 10 minutes ago, everybody. This just happened. So then the power comes back on. Everything's got to reboot. And of course, you have to wait for the routers. The computers are back, but I've got no internet. I call Michelle, right? I call Michelle. I'm like, you need to tell Brit what's going on. And then 1 minute before showtime, I got my routers back. And here we are. And
Well, the funny thing was, Jimmy, you were sitting there, you were frozen on the screen with this expressive look of shock. Like, this just happened. You froze.
yeah, I didn't even think about that. What were you seeing on the other end?
Yeah,
me
I was watching you go.
That was crazy. And but anyway, you're here, and high strangeness, and what you and I do, and what this community does, and other researchers, it just follows it. And there's no reason to freak out, is there?
No, you have to learn how to go with that flow. I say flow with the go because it's always going. You just got to get in motion with it. But it's there. Amazing things happen when you're in sync with the work you're doing. Whether it's writing, whether it's UFOs, whether it's broadcasting, it doesn't matter. But when you're in sync, these little things pop up just to remind you, okay, you're still around. Things are happening. It just brings it up time and time again. And it's so wonderful. It's really refreshing to me when something like what happened to us happens. It's like, okay, I'm ready.
Yeah. I don't. The last thing I do, and we were talking about, Britt and I were talking about, bliss and no negativity and living life and discovering ourselves. That's what we were talking about. Well, this is an example of that. Don't get upset. Life is too short for that.
Absolutely.
And you saw. So we get back online. 60 seconds later, I'm welcome to Fade to Black. It's just like, what's the alternative? I'm going to be angry.
Right. What does it do to you? It just brings your energy down and everybody around you. And if you're just going with that flow, then you are in the energy of the moment, and that's where you need to be.
Man, when I grow up, I want to be Brit Elders. That's proof of it right there. Okay, let's. We have so much to discuss tonight, and so I want to go on the way back machine.
Okay.
Before you met Lee. Okay.
Okay.
Let's go on that way back machine. Where was your life growing up, and did you have any interest in what your career and your life would become? Did you have any idea? Where did it all start?
I was raised in Arizona. I'm an Arizona native. Love this state, but my dad was a rocket engineer, worked with von Braun on the early missile systems. It was nothing to come home and have all of their plans laid out over the floor. We were never allowed to touch anything. My mom was at home all the time, but she was the most intuitive psychic individual I knew. So I had this very left-brained individual as my dad and this very right-brained person with my mom, and they were a great combination. I grew up writing. I wrote my first novel when I was 8 years old. By the time I was in high school, I was writing constantly. But I write for myself more than anything else. I don't write to have it published or, anything like that. Most of what I write is for me. But I love to write. I love to express. I love to learn. It's just a goal of mine, and has been every day of my life, to learn something new. Every single day. And there's always something that presents itself so I can learn something new. And that's great to me. That's why I love writing for others, doing ghostwriting and editing and things like that. Helping people find their voice. They're teaching me too.
Did your dad ever discuss anything strange?
Oh, yeah. When they would be at the Cape, it was one thing. But when they were at Los Alamos, at White Sands, they were told to get on the ground and cover their heads every time they launched. And that was because of the objects coming in, not what they were sending up, because half the time they went up and they came down. Mm-hmm. But it was about, they didn't want the people to see what was actually flying in, to see what we were doing with our missiles and our rockets.
Now, isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
And we've always heard those kinds of stories, and I find that compelling and interesting. You know where I live, and there, especially when we talk about New Mexico, Arizona is no stranger to this craziness either, right?
Right.
That these reports of observing our technology, and certainly the fringes of technology pushing boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
If we encountered life on another planet, we would be observing the exact same thing. We would be wondering where are they at their level of, have they discovered fire yet? They have electricity? You know, where are they?
Part of it. But I think also they want to sort of observe to see not just where we're headed and how far along we are, but also from the standpoint of wanting to know what we're doing with it. And I think that's a big deal and has been for a long time. I know we have friends at the Cape that they told us about sightings all over the place when we were sending up the space shuttle, and people were oblivious to that. The public didn't know it, but people on the ground there were talking about it. So things like that are fascinating to me. It's almost like they're saying, oh gosh, they got so far this time. Now, how much further are they going to go next time? And now we're talking about Mars, of course, and pushing out further and further into space. I have a hunch they're saying, kind of keep your problems in your own little neighborhood, fix those first, and then come play with us in our neighborhood. Because right now we have too many issues we could carry out into space and really make a lot of issues for a lot of different cultures.
Yeah, we make issues on the next block, let alone space. Right? Yeah, we just can't get out of our own way. So, okay, so before you met Lee, did you have any encounters or see anything, anything strange?
No, I was curious, but I didn't follow any of this. I had heard about it mostly through my dad and the guys that he worked with, but that was it. That was my exposure.
So there wasn't any paradigm shift or anything. How did you meet Lee?
We were both in LAX airport at the same time. I was coming back to Arizona from a ski trip, and he was coming into Arizona via LA from Ecuador. He had just come out of the jungle. He was carrying 2 6-foot-long spears, a botacara, which is a blowgun, a monkey pouch hanging around his neck. His hair was down to here, bleached blonde. He hadn't had a bath in 2 weeks. And there was one huge line into a restaurant. And he said, "Are you waiting in line?" I said, "Yes." He says, "Follow me." He saw a table way back in the back, and he walked through that restaurant. It's like the Red Sea parted. And I followed him, and we were together from then on.
That what kind of love story is that? You can't.
Insane.
You need to change that a little bit. That's just not right. That's not right. Did you have any idea? Did you know at that point, like, okay, this is it?
No, I thought he was the weirdest, most arrogant human being I had ever met. And I told him so when we sat down. And, I was like 20 years old, and it was like, what is wrong with this dude? But okay, he's interesting. I'm curious. So there again, I follow my curiosity. It leads me in wonderful, wonderful directions.
Oh, so what? Okay, so that's day one. What happens next? Do you go to Arizona?
We both were on the same plane. They took his spears and his botacara, his blowgun, away from him. And we sat next to each other, talked the entire way into Phoenix. And then he called me the next day, and we got together and just were with each other day by day. And within 6 months, we were living together.
That's crazy. That is crazy. And, I'm picturing the two of you. Well, you know what? That's how it should have started. Okay. All right, I'll buy into it. The changes, the paradigm shift that happens at this point. What year are we talking here?
When we got involved heavily with UFOs, it was 1976 when we first heard about them.
Okay.
And it wasn't just the Meier case. There were several things happening. Travis Walton had just had his experiences. There was a whole issue going on in southern Arizona with an individual who was very well versed in nuclear bombs, and he was abducted off the Catalina Mountains down south of Tucson. So we were called in on that one because we had an investigative firm. We had a company called Intercept. It was the electronic countermeasure primarily, but it was designed as an investigative firm for a lot of different things. And we kept Fortune 500s and financial institutions from being eavesdropped on. That was the primary goal of our company. So we were called in by various individuals to take a look at these things that were happening. And we thought, wow, this is really wild. But the poor guy in the Catalinas, he had radiation burns. We took him to the father of nuclear medicine who lived in Tucson at the time. And he says, these are all radiation burns. And how he got them, nobody knew. But he was abducted on one side of the mountain and was later found on the other side of the mountain. And it was a forest ranger that found him.
Did he have a conscious memory of everything?
He remembered seeing this light, and he got out of his car to look at the light and see what it was. And then he remembered seeing beings. And when we tried to get him to do some hypnosis with that, he just wigged out with the hypnotist. He could not handle what he was seeing. And he just said, it's against everything I believe in. It's against my religion. It's against. He didn't want anything to do with it. So he got in his car and he drove back to Kentucky.
And that was that.
That was that. He didn't want to pursue that any further at all.
Now, Lee, how was he accepting? Because it's one thing when you are dealing with a 2D or 3D existence, companies, your company, and what you are doing in the real world. Right. Okay. So you're not stepping outside. Yeah, you're not stepping outside of the path that you're on. So, and I get that. But when ETs and aliens come into the conversation, you have to have an open mind and to approach this, but you also have to remain objective, right? You've got to keep 2 feet planted in two different areas. How was Lee open to all of this?
He wasn't. He was raised a Baptist, so he had that happening in the back of his mind. He hadn't been involved in religion forever, but still, it was lurking back there. And he couldn't quite grasp the concept of extraterrestrial life until we got involved with the Meier case. And when we went to Switzerland and he sat down, he expected to go in and debunk the whole thing and say, yeah, it's fake. And I'll show you how he's done. He expected to do that in about a day. We were there 5 days. We left with photographs, movie footage, metal samples, audio recordings, and a lot of witness statements. And he came out shaking his head. At that point, he realized he had to put his investigator's hat on, get neutral, and approach the evidence, the three-dimensional thumb-hunted evidence that we had, with the same criteria you would with any other investigation. So he was okay with that. But then he was curious because of what Meier had told him and what Meier had talked to us about regarding meeting Semyasa and the extraterrestrials. That really piqued his curiosity. So he was wearing the investigative hat very staunchly. I know a lot of people think he was too forceful in the investigation because he only wanted to deal with people that had names and reputations that could analyze the material. And that made a lot of other people angry, but that's the way that was. Then he had to look at it from the standpoint of what it meant to him personally. And those were the two contradictions that were at play with him, the professionalism and the personal aspect of it. The personal aspect was, after the first couple of trips, he believed something had happened. He didn't know what it was. He couldn't explain it. But the more and more time we spent with the Meier, the more and more he relaxed with it. The more the physical documentation held up, the more he relaxed with it and felt comfortable with it.
Well, how about you? Okay, let's not get ahead of. Oh, hold on. Let's back up. What about you? I mean, Lee can. I want to say this out of respect, okay, but Lee can be a peer. I should say a peer. I don't know if intimidating is the right word.
Yeah, it's a good word.
Yeah. Focused, is that a better word? Maybe
that's true too.
yeah.
Both are true.
So you can tell that he was a man that was always of intent, and I would not want Lee on my scent, on my trail.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So let's put it that way. But what about you? Where was your headspace at?
I was curious. When we got to Switzerland and met with Meier, first of all, I have to tell you, when we first saw the pictures, we went, oh, these are too good to be true. Both of us did that. But when we met with Meier, and we'd sit up all night long drinking coffee kirsch at his kitchen table, talking about all the things the Pleiadians had said, what he had done in his life, just general conversation. I was really fascinated. I liked what the Pleiadians had to say, that they came because they wanted us to realize we're not the only thinking beings in the universe. I liked that. I thought it was important at the time. And then I liked the fact that Billy was so open and receptive to anything we asked him. He never hid from anything. And I thought, oh, something's really going on here. The more people I talked to over there, the more that I saw the kids had experiences. His ex-wife had experiences. The neighbors had seen things. It's not something you can debunk. So I was comfortable with it and wanted to look at it from a slightly different perspective. I love the physical evidence aspect where you can really get in and test and play and find out what is thump on it type real. But I love the other aspect of it too. What are they saying? What is their intent here? Why are they here? And why Billy? And who else in the world is having an experience like this? And there are other people that are having these experiences. So all of that was just, it was like a toy box opened up for me.
And how many trips did you guys end up taking? It seemed like that's all you were doing was packing and unpacking cameras.
That's really true. It was back and forth. Over a period of 7 years during the investigation, we spent over 365 days living at the farm, at the Meier house. So how many trips? I can't even remember. Yeah.
That's such a fascinating part about this. And now let's dip our toes in a little bit of controversy. There's no way that we can talk about this case and not. It's the elephant in the room for sure.
Yeah.
It seems to me, and I want you to be, really straight with me on this, because it's an honest question. It seems to me that Billy may have had the contact that he talks about, but may have let the story get away from him.
I think you're absolutely right. I have no problems with that. By the time we got there, people had already come in because they had heard about his contacts, and they had stolen photographs, stolen movie footage, never knew the metal was there, luckily, made copies of the recordings, and pretty well made their own judgment, although there was no analysis done of any of the material. But they came out and said, oh, it's real. Oh, it's a hoax. Oh, it's this. Oh, it's that. So he was very trusting, and he felt his responsibility in this whole contact case, him being the contactee, was to get this out to the people. He didn't understand that there were people out there that didn't have the same value systems he had. And he was very trusting and was taken advantage of by many people. So when we got in, we sort of locked everything down. It was important to us that no more information just sort of haphazardly got out there. It was fine if people went and visited Billy and they talked and did whatever. That wasn't a big deal. But on the evidence, that had to be tested correctly. That had to really go through the analysis with the proper people, through the proper channels. And it wasn't something that you just, give off to somebody, anybody, and say, take a look at this and see what it is. We had to work to find the right people, getting to Marcel Vogel at IBM, and then the scientists he brought in. And fortunately, there were enough scientists out there that were curious about it. Not just the metal, but the photographs and everything else. So it worked in our favor because Billy's name was out there. People were talking about him. They were sharing photographs and all of this, but we had the hard evidence that could be analyzed, and that's what we focused on.
The other part of this is we'll come back to where we are right now, back to the Myers case. But where we are now today, compared to back then, things are spinning out of control right now. Where back then you didn't have the Department of Defense or reports or the House or the Senate or the Oval Office, right?
You didn't have personal computers. You didn't have cell phones that took pictures. You didn't have any of the things we have now, plus the political aspect of it as well.
Yeah. What do you make of that? Did you ever imagine that the subject would be front and center like it is today?
I kind of did. I thought there would be a tipping point in there somewhere. I actually thought it might happen when Jimmy Carter came out and talked about seeing his craft, but that didn't fly too well with anyone, and they kind of ignored it and shoved it under the rug with everything else. So that was something that I expected to happen, but it's later than what I thought.
Now, now back to Billy. There were other, like you had just mentioned, it wasn't just the Myers case. There were things that were happening, pretty big moments around the world with other cases too, as well. Were you guys able to focus on them and try to research those at the same time and maybe compare what was going on?
When we could. But we were so focused on the Meier case that literally we spent 7 years just enveloped by it. But we did hear about cases in South America that were very similar. An individual down there that said he was having contact with Pleiadians, but it was not Samyasa and Ptah and people Billy was talking to. It was others. And he was getting very similar information. And he knew about Billy Meier. He knew all about him. So that was interesting that we could correlate those two. And then there were others coming forward as well. And the gentleman down in South America did have physical evidence, but not to the extent that Billy had. So, yeah, we got into a few of them, but our focus was on Meier. It wasn't until later that we started getting into a lot of the other cases around the world, primarily in Mexico. We spent a lot of time there and in South America.
So while you were out at Myers' place, I am sure you had your own experiences. What did you see? And what was the first one?
The first one was when Billy had a contact in the middle of the night and he got up. It had been raining and everything was just mud. They didn't have gravel down behind the house. It was just a dirt path and it was full of mud. Billy took off behind the house. We were in a camp trailer next to the house, saw him leave, and decided, okay, we're going to get up first thing in the morning and we're going to see where he went because he didn't come back that night. We went out the next morning bright and early, tracked him, through the mud to a clearing in the forest, and his footprints disappeared. Just literally stopped. So he didn't go anywhere except up, out, someplace, because he didn't go to the left, the right, forward, or back. That was one time. Now that happened 3 different times, but that was one particular time.
Well, what goes through your mind?
Star Trek.
It's pretty fantastical stuff, right?
It is.
It's science fiction. It's
interesting, Jimmy, because it was science fiction concept then, Star Trek type stuff then, but it's now becoming science fact.
Sure.
We're moving into those arenas now, and it's taking us time to get there. But when you think 45 years, that's really nothing. That's a drop in the bucket. So that it makes a big difference when you start looking at what was then versus what we're doing now in our scientific communities. So we're moving in those directions. And then another time when they vanished, okay, we saw in the middle of this field, there was a dry area. Everything else was muddy, but there was this circular dry area. Can't explain that either. So many different things. We saw lights that today I cannot explain. Blue-white light literally lit up everything. Above the tree, below the tree, through the tree, under the tree, on the other side of the tree, and it had no source. That's what was so interesting about it. It lit up everything, the entire forest. Stayed for a few seconds, blinked out. And then we looked at each other and said, "Did you just see that?" And we said, "Yeah." It did it again. It happened 3 times. That same blue-white bright light. It was so bright, it hurt your eyes. And it's in the middle of the night. There's no aircraft overhead. There's no sound. Totally quiet. And we're standing outside, and Billy is off having a contact.
Let me ask you, it's just a personal question.
Sure.
The photographs, it's like the sound of music, right? You guys are in, you know what I mean? You're just up in the mountains in the Alps.
Yeah.
Was it that majestic?
It's that gorgeous.
Yeah.
Absolutely that gorgeous. Especially behind Billy's house. Yeah.
Yeah, just incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I just had to get that out of the way.
It was like this in the music.
I mean, did you ever just go, the hills are, just, oh man. Okay. When you see footprints like that, right,
yes.
going to nowhere, do you put your hands on your hips and just like go, huh? Because your brain's got to figure it out. Or you're going to go crazy, right? You've got, it's one or the other. There's no gray area there.
Well, for me, I didn't go crazy. I just looked at it and went, they came and got him.
Right.
It was logical to me. Lee literally covered the entire area walking to make certain that Billy had not gone through any other area. He was still in proof mode.
Sure.
We did that. So, yeah. But to me, I just accepted it. Okay.
All right. Another straight up question.
Okay.
Did you ever encounter any evidence there that made you question your judgment, where you're like, man, okay, I was all in, but now this seems a little smelly to me. Did you ever have those moments?
That's a really good question. I can't think of anything other than when we brought a model in. We never found a model. We went through the farmhouse the first trip, just looking for anything, everything, talking to the kids because they'd be the most receptive to saying, "Oh yeah, here, it's over here." We traipsed through that farm and Billy was so allowing to let that happen. We never found anything that appeared to be a model or any way he could have manufactured it. He didn't have a computer. Photoshop wasn't even around then. Personal computers weighed 75 pounds and were enormous.
Plus, he only had one arm.
He had one arm.
That's another thing that complicates this. All right, so I in 1984, 85, like right in there, I just get to California, and I get invited down to Orange County to a friend of mine's house, another guitar player, his brother's house, and I went. We were out in the back patio. I went through the house to go to the bathroom, which was in the front of the house. And so I'm walking through, and his office is off to my right, and across the hall from the office is the bathroom. But anyway, I look into his office. I'm nosy, and I see on this coffee table the Billy Meier book, right? Right? And I see the cover. I don't know who Billy is.
Yeah.
Okay. So I walk in, but I'm into the subject, right? And I just look, and I'm looking at the cover, and it's like it's the shot of the driveway with the you know what I'm talking about, with this house in the background and the craft in the foreground with the balls around it, right? That's the cover. You know the book I'm talking about. So I'm looking at that, and I pick it up. I went, this is pretty good stuff. So I flipped through it, and I was in. I started to, and it was a couple of years later, fast forward to 87 or so, and somebody, this is in Pasadena, gives me a videotape, and he goes, "Hey, man, Billy Meier's debunked." Something like that.
Yeah.
And he hands me this tape. And so I watch it, and my heart was broken.
Aw.
Yeah. It was because I was so all in. And that's why I asked you at the beginning, did he let the story get away from himself? Yeah. Because it seemed that there was stuff that was presented that didn't need to be there.
Absolutely. But he kept asking for more. I want more and more and more. And that was because people around him were wanting more and more. I mean, humans, I've learned, are never satisfied with anything. They always want more. So that was part of it. And thinking back on it, on your question to me, I would have to say there were two issues that I did question.
What were they?
They didn't totally take me off the case because there was too much to support it.
Right. One
was the photographs that he claimed to have taken of San Francisco during an earthquake.
Right.
That bothered me. And then there was another set of photographs too. I don't even recall what they are now. But the photograph of him being in a ship with another ship there, that didn't seem too weird to me. So that one, I'll never know. Billy is the only one that knows the truth. But we can't test that either. We have no way of testing those types of things. Or the photograph of Ascot. Have no way of testing that. The photographs that troubled me the most were the ones of San Francisco. But not anything else.
What about, I don't want to dwell on this. There's no sense in it. But there was the one with the dinosaur with the
That's
squirrel.
The other photograph I was trying to think of. Yeah.
That one, that it just ripped my heart out. I'm telling you, I was
It's kind of interesting because I looked at it this way. All right. Like I said, Billy's the only one that's going to know for sure what's real and what isn't. But if he took those, whether it's out of a magazine, off a TV screen, off of whatever, it didn't matter to me because he was in his mind trying to show something that he saw. I wasn't concerned with that evidence because I can't test that evidence. I only wanted to know what the other one is. So the question becomes, do you literally go back to that cliche, throw the baby out with the bathwater?
Right.
I couldn't. I couldn't. And neither could Lee.
Everybody, it doesn't matter what the case is.
Yeah.
They do it with me, Brit, right? Constantly looking for that one thing that'll dissolve everything. And I get that.
Yeah.
But Billy, I mean, it was just like, dude, what are you doing?
Yeah.
There isn't a reason for this. Just stay on message. Right? Just stay on message, because some of this is pretty funky, my man. But that doesn't mean
within the discussions we've had with Billy, I do believe that he was trying to, however that those images were taken, he was trying to satisfy the needs of other people, not himself, not of the Pleiadians, but of other people making more and more demands on him. And we saw that happen a lot. It's when we first saw the one you're talking about, the ship with the balls all the way around it. The wedding cake ship is what we call
the
it.
wedding cake. Yeah, the wedding cake.
When we first saw that, we thought, what on earth is that? You know, that just doesn't make sense. Until we took the audio of that craft to an audio engineer who, when he was speccing it out on his equipment, he says, look, it's like it has a point here and a point here and a point here. And he's using circles and he's drawing these circles. It ends up looking like this wedding cake ship. And he says, the only thing I can think that this would be used for, the audio is coming across and saying this, it's some type of propulsion. And that's what these balls are all for. Then we showed him the photograph. He was blown away.
Did you ever see his ship?
No, not there. I have other places, yes, but not in Switzerland.
Similar to Billy's?
A couple similar to Billy's, but most of them have been very different. Very different.
Why? Now, I love that, because I have seen all kinds of things. No two alike.
Yeah.
No two alike. I've not seen anything repeat.
Yeah. I have. In Mexico, you can see Delta craft all the time down there. You get to see the little red and green and blue balls flying around each other. That's quite normal. Plus, they've got a lot of hockey puck and what we call the fleets, which are these huge white orb type things. And they do loop-de-loops, and man, you can have 500 in the sky at one time. So yeah, those are pretty standard in Mexico and in Latin America. But up here, I have seen other things, and they don't make sense. They don't look like your typical flying saucer. They don't look like what we're used to hearing about all of the time.
I saw a flying saucer in Sedona. I mean, I saw a flying saucer. I even hate saying it.
I know.
I just sound crazy.
It's
but it was like this crazy. So we were up at the airport, right? And so we're standing on the edge of the cliff. You know what it's like up there. We're standing up there and doing our thing. We just gotten out of the car, and it was dark. It was probably 9-10 o'clock at night. Just gotten out. And we have two cars. And I have a backpack. So I was pulling my stuff out of the backpack and whatever, binoculars, night vision, all that stuff. Yeah. But just got out of the car, Britt. And now I'm looking, Sedona's behind me. I'm looking towards the runway, right? You know how the runway just goes like that, right? So I'm looking at the planes, I'm looking at the runway, and I look up, and I was like, what is that? And coming low, too, low. Yeah. It's just a white glowing disc, and it's flat, and it's just coming right at us. And the fly, I'm like, huh? And it just goes over the top and flies over Sedona, low and slow, not making any sound. Just a white, flat disc, glowing. And anyway, so it just flies over and goes over the trees and disappears. I was like, you've got to be kidding me, man.
Sedona Airport is a hot spot. I was up there with some friends at the Labyrinth, and we were walking the Labyrinth and talking, and looked up, and there's an object above us, sat and hovered for quite some time, and then just took off.
Yeah, I swear, and everything that is holy, everything that I love, I said to the people I was with, I said, I am never going to tell anybody about this.
Now you just
it's too crazy. Yeah, it's just too crazy. It's just too unbelievable. It was too perfect, and it was low too. It was like, man, yeah. Sedona. So, when I have an experience like that, or with what you just said, as crazy as it sounds, I don't want people to think that I'm making something up.
No.
I want them to at least appreciate the experience, and don't try to debunk it. I'm just telling you what I saw. I don't know what it was. I'm just telling you what I saw. And I think that's the same thing with Billy, or your experiences, not only in Switzerland, but in Mexico. It is what it is. Mm-hmm. There's no reason to blow it up into something that it's not. Right. So
it's very true. But there's also something else I think is really important here. And that is, everybody has their own experiences. They see it their own way. They have their own perception of what it is they're seeing. And we need to be more receptive, open to all of those different things that people are experiencing. Whether or not we agree with them, they feel something about them. And we just have to be a little more respectful of that. I think that would help the UFO community tremendously if we could all gain a little more respect for each other and the work we're doing, as well as the experiencers and what they're experiencing.
Now, I'm going to ask you the same question in a second, but with Lee, he's not here, right? He's no longer with us, but you can certainly speak for him, right? Okay. So
after 44 years,
yeah. How did he change? Oh. You know, he went from the blow dart, right? Spear guy from Ecuador to chasing little green men. How did it change him?
Living with the Jivaro Indians in Ecuador, out in the jungles, to extraterrestrial life as a reality, made him appreciate life a lot, made him appreciate people and where they were coming from. He was much more receptive to hearing and listening than he had been before. He really blossomed because he started recognizing that, hey, we aren't alone. There are others out there. People are having these amazing experiences. What can we learn from them? Where are they going to take us in the future? And how do we get to a point where we can actually have some of these experiences ourselves? So he was curious about it. And when synchronicity starts playing in your life, which it seems to around experiencers and around investigators, he loved that. I mean, that was probably the biggest wake-up call for him. Like, oh, wow. Okay, synchronicity exists, therefore all these other wonders in the universe exist too.
Did he mature? Because this happens later on in life. This didn't happen when you're 15.
Yeah.
Right?
He got more gentle. He got more gentle, more considerate, more compassionate. I guess you could call that maturing. But he had a different type of view. It wasn't so... He was always pinpoint focused on things when he was working on something, but he was able to expand that tremendously. And I could see a big difference in the way he was thinking about individuals in the world and the universe, everything that he came in contact with.
You guys originally, now I don't know this for sure, but you're finally on the show. By the way, I don't know if I mentioned this earlier. Brit and I have been trying to get this show done for over 10 years.
Yeah.
So this is like a special.
Yeah.
It's a long time. I've got a whole list of stuff I need to try to get to tonight. And so let's back up for a second. did you guys originally shoot on film? I want to talk about the technology and how it evolved with you.
Okay.
When you originally started documenting everything, was that on film, or did you guys have videotape back then?
No, 35 millimeter, and Billy was using 8 millimeter footage, and we were shooting some with that, but most of it was 35 millimeter. And then when we did the documentary UFO Contact from the Pleiades, which is going to be re-released before long, by the way, that was, God, it was some type of film stock. That's all I remember of that, but it was definitely film. We weren't doing video at that point in time. Video was in its infancy.
Right.
SP beta.
Well, I ask for a reason, and you know this. You know where I'm going with this. Film is totally different. You can't manipulate it, and there's that aspect. The second aspect of it, which is always the challenge, you got 10 minutes. Right? That's it. That's a reel. Right?
That's right.
That's it. You're not shooting today, shooting until your memory card runs out of space.
Exactly.
Right? No, it's not that kind of party. And you've got one crack at it. You've got 10 minutes. And then at the end of that, you've got to change reels. You got to pack up your canisters. That's got to be stored. It can't be exposed. It's got to be safe. It's got to be temperature, all of that. There was all of this control going on, but no computers, no manipulation, nothing like that back then.
No.
That is a whole different game to me, and I really appreciate it.
It's important for people to realize that none of that existed. Industrial Light and Magic was just getting started, and they're the best special effects house anywhere. Then you've got cell phones that have cameras in them. You have all of this technology that has come about so recently. Wasn't available in 1975. Didn't happen.
The advantage of film, which Billy was doing that too as well, is that you are capturing individual images, the actual stuff. That's incredible, but it's also revealing at the same time, right? It reveals. I'm going to use a bad word. Okay. It reveals bullshit too.
Okay. Yes,
really,
it does.
Yes, really well. And so with that, were you able to just step back and maybe compare things with stuff that you shot yourself or stuff that you were confident in versus the other stuff and go, man, I'm not so sure about what's going on?
With the film that Billy took, never had a problem with it.
What about the tree? Okay, what about the tree? The
tree footage that's really interesting stuff, because the tree, we know where it was. We went and talked to the farmer, and the farmer said, yeah, the tree was here. It didn't disappear. He cut it down. That's what he told us. But the top of the tree moves. When you take that footage frame by frame by frame, you can see it. There are no splices. There's no edits. There's no strings. There's no nothing. It's just, you can see the ship going around the tree. And at the top, as the ship moves around it, the tree bends. We took it apart frame by frame. There was nothing there.
So did you see the original footage? I mean, the footage.
We had a copy made of the original footage.
Because the footage that's out there now is from the Japanese production that was filming, right? The projector on the wall. They were what's the word I want to use? They were filming the screen. Yeah.
But Junichi took the footage that we had the contact print made from and took it back to, this was Junichi Yaoi, whom we were working with. He took it back to Japan. And while we were there later, he had it analyzed, and they did it frame by frame with the footage. He had the video of the footage, is what you're saying. He was videotaping the screen as it was going around. But when you take that frame by frame, there's nothing in it to question.
Okay.
And that was really interesting. The thing in the footage, in the movie footage, the thing I loved the most was there's a ship, and it's actually up here bobbling along, and underneath it on the highway are cars. And you can see the cars going underneath it. And then it vanishes in one frame. Another section of footage, you track it frame by frame. It's up here high, and then next frame, it's down here at the bottom. There's no splicing. There's nothing that sees that craft go top of the frame, next frame down here at the bottom. So yeah, it was really amazing.
Yeah, that's a pretty interesting point. So the cars are consistent.
Yes.
Yeah, interesting.
Going both directions. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, so let's take a break. Let's get that in. We'll take a quick 5-minute break. Our guest tonight, Brit Elders, very excited about this. We're going to continue and discuss her 50-year journey of researching for our community with our husband, Lee. It's a great conversation. Brit, you stay right there. We'll be right back after this short break. Stay with us. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to get your alerts and access to over 2,000 videos. Click that subscribe button right now. Go to JimmyChurchRadio.com and get the Fade to Black official podcast. 2,000 episodes, all of them commercial free for just $2 a month. This is Jimmy Church. Please visit and explore Egypt this October 3rd through the 14th, 2024 with Billy, Elizabeth, myself, and very special guest and the #1 podcaster in the world, Sean Kelly. It's simple to do. Just go to forbiddenknowledge.com and click on upcoming tours, or click on the link below. We'll see you there. Watch Into the Vortex on Gaia TV. It's Fade to Black for the screen. Simple to do. Go to Gaia.com, search Jimmy Church, or click on the link below. Follow Fade to Black on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Get all of the show updates every single day. It's now called X, but who cares? How you doing? Jimmy Church here. Special announcement. Get your Fade to Black T-shirts. That's right. Help support the show. Help support everything that we do over here. We've got 2 T-shirts. We've got 2 ways to get them. And right now, if you get a Game Changer membership for a limited time, you will get Fade to Black Blend coffee with your Game Changer membership. That's right. We have 2 T-shirts. We have the original, the classic Fade to Black T-shirt. You know you want one. Post a picture. Send it to us. We'll put it in our Fade to Black gallery. And we've got the new official Fade to Black T-shirt drawn by Michael Oming. 2 T-shirts, 2 ways to get them. Get yours today. Everything is in stock. Everything gets autographed. Everything includes shipping, and you're going to get a tracking number. And with a Game Changer membership, you get an email to me. You get unlimited commercial-free downloads of the show. Those are uploaded every single night after the show to the website. So don't delay. Get your Fade to Black T-shirt today. Go Backley Tappy. Go to jimmychurchradio.com and become a Fadernaut. Get a membership. That's right. Everything is commercial free. You have access to downloads, and you get to call yourself a Fadernaut. River Moon Coffee, makers of the Fade to Black blend. Truly the best coffee on planet Earth. Just visit rivermoonwellness.com or their Amazon store. It's all simple to do. You can check out the Fade to Black blend, the Game Changer blend, or any of their Black Moon wellness products. It's the only coffee I drink. It is the best, and it's Doc. Again, rivermoonwellness.com. All right. Welcome back, Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Brit Elders is with us. And this show, over 10 years in the making, it's kind of like waiting 2 years for the next season of The Sopranos. But it's well worth the wait when it actually airs. Brit, I am fascinated with ancient cultures. Just like you, I've traveled the world, and I continue to do that. And when I observe certain cultures and situations, I have to scratch my head and go, man, maybe Von Daniken is right. I believe that he is. But tell me what you have learned. Where are you with that about ancient visitations and how long things have been going on? Where's your head?
Forever. I mean, it's forever. You cannot look into history or visit some ancient site and not see something tied to extraterrestrial visitors. It's just there. A lot of work has been done recently on that. That's great, but it's always been there. It's in the Bible. It's in the Kohigi, the Japanese religious basis thing. It's throughout history in China. There is not a culture it hasn't touched. South America, Mexico, all over Europe, they worshiped different star systems. All of them had a very strong connection that we looked into with the Pleiades, the 7 sisters. And it was always about knowledge. It was always about somehow developing as a society. And so that was always interesting to us. But so many star systems, Sirius 1, Sirius 2, A and B. You had the Zeta Reticula come in quite often. Betelgeuse, obviously, Aldebaran. All of these different star cultures are mentioned throughout history in every culture. And it's fascinating when you get into it. You can get lost in that subject.
I do. You know what the side effect is now when I go outside and look up at the stars.
What?
I see it differently. I do. I look at the Seven Sisters. I'm looking at Orion's belt, and I'm thinking about Giza, and I'm thinking about Contact, and you can't help it. You see, but here's the twist. I have access to knowledge. I have access to astronomy and astrophysicists, and we've got telescopes and the James Webb, and we have access to that. The ancients didn't have that. That's the part that's very puzzling to me. It seems that they were taught. That's all.
Yeah. That I think is what happened. I think we were inhabited, maybe seeded on this planet by a lot of different cultures. And that to me just seems perfectly logical. I mean, when you look at the Earth from space, which we have done, which we've got beautiful images of it now, it is a beautiful planet. Wouldn't you want to visit? And if you got here and you found a developing group of individuals, humanoids, wouldn't you want to have some type of communication, some type of involvement with them? And if you did, wouldn't you want to teach them something that you knew? So I think it's perfectly natural to think that most of us are star seeds, generations back, but nonetheless star seeds. Even when you go to Teotihuacan in Mexico is a great example. There's a beautiful place there, and it's called the Plaza of the Pleiades. And throughout it, they have the 7 stars, and it sits right across from the Temple of the Sun. So it's all of these different things and how they tie together. And it's not just about the astronomy, which the ancient cultures had down just fabulously, but it's also about what they did with it, how they learned, how they built around it, how they developed around it. And then how each of these cultures say that they were given something by those star beings that came to visit. It's pretty amazing when you really dig into it.
It is. And you know what's really funny is that I don't talk religion on the show. I don't talk politics, but I'll talk the conspiracy of religion all day long, right? So, but here's the paradox. Christianity is okay with Moses talking to God, right? Or the heavens, or the angels descending, and they're okay with that. But aliens
off on a wheel,
right? Yeah. But aliens, no, I don't. It's like, wait a minute here. It's the same thing, and it wasn't just the Bible. It was Gilgamesh, it's Sumer, it's the Mayans, it's the Aztecs, it's the Incas, all of the indigenous cultures across the United States, the Nordics. You go into Greece and even ancient Rome and find the same conversations, including, of course, Siberia and Asia and Japan and China. It's all the Armenia, right? It's all the same conversation. We're just talking about the same thing, but yet it seems that our educational systems and possibly governments and state actors are trying to hide our past from us. And that's the part that I get a little angry about. Why do you think the work is put into hiding our past and what may the truth might be?
I don't think we'd be so controllable if we understood all of the truth out there. I think we right now are a fairly controllable society through fear. And so it's easier to use UFOs, extraterrestrials, as a fear-based issue rather than teaching about what they may have been in our past and what they could mean to us today. And that's a really sad opinion to have, but that's sort of how I feel about everything. We prefer to look at everything through, oh my gosh, it's new, I don't know it, it's scary. I want to be away from it. I don't want to hear about it. And that's because we've been indoctrinated that way. Instead of being taught to learn, to explore, to challenge, to question. No, we've been just told, be afraid of it. And that's where we are.
The ideas presented, and you know all of them, whether it's the Condon Report or the Rand Corporation, Brookings, whatever opinion has been presented about how we could handle the news and the truth. It turns out it's out there in the open now, and we haven't freaked out.
No, but they, the air quotes being empowered people, they like everybody to be under their control. So therefore, it's easier to keep promoting this fear aspect. The people out there accepting it, and all over the world, our country, unfortunately, and I hate to say this, is probably one of the most backwards countries when it comes to learning about extraterrestrials, exposing the information, bringing it to light for the public. And that breaks my heart that I have to say that. But that's how I feel about it. Because even in South America, look what they did in Brazil, where they had actual councils set up so that people could come make reports, and the reports were made public, and there was no condemnation. There was no, oh, I don't believe what you said. None of that stuff going on at all. In fact, the people were more open to going and reporting things because it was received so beautifully. The same thing has happened in different countries in South America, Ecuador, Colombia. They're all looking at it. Mexico, Jaime Maussan is doing a world of work down there by trying to get the Mexican Congress to officially state, yes, extraterrestrial life exists. That'd be the first country on the planet that did that. And that would be wonderful. But all of the releases in Europe, all of the releases that have gone on in China, this is way back, 1984 was when China was publishing magazines about UFOs for the general public to read. And they were being very open about contact and very openly discussing it. Same thing in Russia. Marina Popovich, I had a very nice long meeting with her. She was one of the cosmonauts from Russia. Great gal. And she talked about how open and receptive they were to extraterrestrial communication, telepathically and physically. No, this is something that the United States has just got to catch up on. We've got to get in place with the rest of the world.
I couldn't agree with you more. That's the other part too. We're all waiting for disclosure. I don't want to segue too hard into this. It's a conversation for another time. It's such a great conversation, but somebody may beat us to it. Yeah. And if that's the case, that's when we might get upset. You know, how long have you known this, and why did they have to talk about this first? Which means you knew, right? Mm-hmm. The United States is a leader in this world. There's no way that they knew and we didn't. And it's like a Pandora's box, right? You don't want that one open.
Well, maybe you do. I mean, that's a good Pandora's box to open because the people know it's there. I mean, When you talk to people on the street now, it's not like it was 45 years ago. They're willing to talk about what they've seen. If you say, oh, yeah, I just did this book on UFOs, and they go, oh, really? I had a sighting. And people just automatically chime in. They've seen things. They don't know what they are. They have questions. Most of them are not afraid. Most of them want more information. So for me, that Pandora's box would be a good thing to open up. Because we get a lot of things we could cross-correlate, we could learn from.
Is the laughing over? And let me give you an example, because I'm going to talk about you for a second. Well, sort of.
Okay.
I'm going to talk about Larry King. Mm-hmm. And it seemed that the one thing that our community had in our corner was Larry King once a year, twice a year doing the UFO special. And some of the highest ratings on television ever were those Larry King UFO specials, right?
Yeah.
And nothing better than that. And which included Shirley MacLaine, right? And now you have Larry, one of the most respected voices in all of media, right? Shirley MacLaine, one of the most respected entertainers of Generate, period. That's it. But she had Crazy Town to talk about.
Yeah.
And if they did that today, it would be dealt with differently.
Yes.
But back then she was very brave, and so was Larry.
Yes.
To come out the way that they did.
Definitely.
But it didn't make the splash that it should have.
No. Everything was sort of tamped down back then. It was still being poo-pooed. It was still, I don't believe that stuff. I don't want to talk about it. Everyone was afraid of their reputation. Everyone was afraid of having someone else judge them. We've kind of moved past that, and we don't look at the judgment aspect as harshly as we used to. Now people are pretty open about what they think and what they feel and what they think they saw. And it makes a big difference. If Shirley were to come out today and say, man, here's what happened to me, and here's Out on a Limb, and represent it, it would be received in a completely different way. That's one of the biggest reasons that we wanted to re-release Volume 1 and Volume 2, Contact from the Pleiades. Because there's a new generation out there, and the people want to learn. And put it out there. Let them make their decisions, but give them the information so they're equipped to make the decisions.
Well, and Shirley's earned the right to go, see?
Yeah. But she'd never do that.
No, she wouldn't. Yeah,
they call her cuckoo and she giggles. Yeah.
Yeah. But she's earned that right. She has certainly earned that right.
Yeah.
Now, staying on this, what about abductees? And those, and think about it, everybody that Bud Hopkins talked about, right?
Yeah.
And all of the, if we just stop and examine, because the number is big. And the number is as big as in 1995, we had only discovered one exoplanet. That was in 1995, right? 1998, we discovered 5.
Uh-huh.
Now, here we are in 2024, and we now know that every single star in the universe, not in our Milky Way,
right,
in the universe has at least one planet.
Mm-hmm.
They are everywhere.
More.
Yeah. We've got how many here? Well, latest count, I think Pluto's coming back, by the way. So
good.
I think Pluto's coming back. But that's a really good point.
Yeah.
Right. So it is a different game today, but it supports the abductions and contactees experiences, including with myself, that have been talked about for decades.
Mm-hmm. That's very true. I think abductions, I have kind of a different view of abductions, having spoken with many of them. Abductees feel that they've been somehow violated. But when you sit down and you really talk to them, and you say, did you get out and walk towards that craft? Did you move towards it? Did you look at it? Were you curious about it? Were you directing your thoughts to it? And they say, well, yes.
It's your fault.
Did you invite the experience?
Right.
Because was it really negative? Rather than viewing abduction with that term, which is so fear-oriented and negative, what if it was a contact? What if your approaching it opened that whole discussion between you and the being? What if, and this is where a lot of people go, what if those beings that I hate to use the words prodded and poked, but that's what I'm going to say. Prodded and poked you. What if they learned that from us? Because we do that to each other. We do it to animals. We do it to plants. We do it to the earth. We do it to all things. So what if they think, they're doing it to each other, so maybe that's how we learn about these beings? So when you get into a discussion like that with some of these abductees, some will always feel traumatized. And they need to be able to work through that with really good people that can help them. Others get it right away and go, oh, that's right. I got out of the car and I walked towards that thing. And then when I got on board, I don't remember what happened, or if they go through hypnosis and they do start remembering things, or maybe their memory just starts coming back in. They get into a whole different headspace if they're open to the fact that they initiated the contact.
How many, the contact, okay. I've had my own experiences. I'm not saying I was abducted. I'm not saying I was probed. I didn't see any examination tables or anything like that. But I have some high strangeness things that I'm still trying to figure out. But they weren't negative. But that doesn't mean that every ET race has got flowers hanging out of their pockets.
That's right.
I am sure. Yeah, I am sure that there's been some really bad experiences out there, some really horrible, terrifying, bad things have gone down. But that hasn't been my experience. But for those out there that have had a bad experience, doesn't that represent the size of the universe and how many different, you know what I mean? We're getting visited from all over the place. It's not just one planet from Zeta Reticuli.
Exactly. And if you look at the number of cultures just on our planet, and then look at the universe and how vast that is, and the number of cultures and the number of possibilities of individuals visiting here, beings visiting here, they can't all be good, but they're not all bad either. I have to take something back to something we talked about, I think, before we even started the show. And we were talking about how much better it is to be upbeat and positive and experiencing life kind of with a smile all the time. Maybe that's why you had the experience you had, because you take that attitude. I think what we project into whatever we're doing has a lot to do with how we receive the experience itself.
Have you had a contact experience?
No, but I have missing time on 3 different occasions.
Oh, whoa. Okay. Hold on a minute now.
This is groundbreaking. Nobody knows this.
Okay. All right. Okay. Let's talk about the first. Where and when. This is great.
The first time Lee and I were driving to California, we were going over to visit with Shirley. And someplace between Las Vegas and Malibu, it managed to take us 18 hours to drive that stretch. And we remember leaving Las Vegas and getting on the highway. We remember coming into Riverside. And there's nothing in between.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I'm not going to let this go. We're going to talk about this, but for the audience, on a bad day, on a bad weekend, Sunday night out of Vegas, right? That's a 6-hour drive, right? On a bad, I mean, like everything that can go wrong goes wrong. But what did you say? 18 hours?
18 hours. It was daylight early, and it was after midnight when we realized we were in Riverside. Yeah.
No, wait. 18 hours to go from Vegas to Riverside?
Vegas to Riverside, yeah.
That's a 3-hour drive.
Well,
okay,
that's crowded.
That's okay. It's 4.5 on a bad.
Yeah.
But That's insane.
Yeah.
Did you guys have any conscious memory of anything at all?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. In fact, we both laughed at it. Yeah, what the hell happened to us for all of this time, and just sort of joked about it. We talked about it, tried to bring it up from the standpoint of a memory, what happened. Didn't remember seeing anything unusual, nothing. Just gone. Yeah. And then another time I was with my dad and my mom, and we were driving to California for my grandfather's funeral. And we saw a craft come out of the San Francisco Peaks here by Flagstaff. Literally this monstrous ship. And it sort of looked like an arrow with a rounded front end and this long tubular thing. My mom and I saw it. We were sitting on the passenger side. Dad was driving. Looked out the window and we both stared and just, wow. And then there were little colorful lights going in and out, darting in and out of it. And we kept telling Dad, pull over, pull over. And he's, well, why? I got to get there. No, pull over. Finally got him off the road. He got out of the car, looked up and said, where the hell would we land that thing? It was so enormous. And then the next thing he said is, it doesn't make any noise. Then trucks started parking behind us to get out and look at this thing. So that was all happening on a very cold January night, full moon, snow everywhere, lit up the skies. It was just so big and beautiful. And we watched it for about 15 minutes, but we lost 3 hours watching it for 15 minutes.
Have you been regressed?
I have not found anyone yet that can actually get me to go back.
By choice? You don't think you can, or you just haven't found the right person?
I just haven't found the right person, I don't think.
Oh, I've got the right person. Oh, I've got the right. See, I did the same thing. All right. I didn't want to know. I didn't want to find out. I know, just like you, I know everybody.
Yeah.
I've had the offers, and so I was like, no, I don't want to know.
You know what? I'm not moved by it. It's okay.
Brit, I didn't think I could be regressed. That was the other thing. Yeah. So a friend of mine, you can look her up, Sarah Breskman Cosme. You can watch the TV show. So we did a regression on camera.
Oh, wow.
And it's on my TV show. I'll send you a link. You can watch the stuff coming out of my mouth. I'm like, who is this guy? But I went under like that fast on camera. And I don't know if I could have done it if we had people around us.
Yeah.
The cameras were there. We had multiple cameras, but the whole crew, everybody, sound and lights, directors, productions, they were all in the studio behind the glass.
Uh-huh.
So it was just her and I and a couple of candles, right, in the studio. We got the mood right and did everything. And I'm serious. It was like, I don't know. She was talking, and I remember that and stuff. I don't know what kind of magic's fairy dust. What I don't know, but all I know is it was like rolling down a hill.
Wow, because every time someone's tried to regress me, I giggle. I mean, I laugh through the whole thing. It's really, do you want to know about? Do you want to know about those experiences?
I
really did for a period of time, and then because I kept giggling through regressions, I thought, well, maybe I'm not supposed to know now. I'll just wait until the time's right, and something will happen, and it'll pop up again, and I'll do it. Maybe this is the time.
Did Lee ever do a regression?
No.
Yeah,
no.
I can't imagine. I can't imagine Lee. Yeah, so then I'm on a steel table. No, I can't.
No, that's not Lee.
No, I can't see that happening. And you said there was a third time.
Yeah, third time again, I was with Lee, but we were here at the house, and we were sitting out on the deck, and it was about 6 o'clock at night. And at 2 o'clock in the morning, we were sitting out on the deck in the exact same position, lost all of that time. Don't know where it went.
Do you think it's because your mind is open?
Yes, definitely. And because I'm curious.
Right.
I think
right.
it's just the openness and the receptivity. I think it's because I am curious. And he was too. So between the two of us, we were always game for something new and different and unusual.
Now, how do you, in your wisdom, right? How much trust do you put into somebody's experience? Do you have the discernment gene where you're like, I'm not buying this one?
Sometimes that pops up big, and sometimes it doesn't. I have come to the conclusion that everybody, they can say what they need to say, but it's for them. It's about them. It's their reason. I don't necessarily have to agree with it or partake in it. But if someone says they've had an experience, who am I to judge that?
I know. Yeah, I know.
I can't. Sometimes I just feel like, that's something I don't want to play in, but I can't judge it. That's theirs. That's their reality, their experience.
I remember the first time where I was confronted with something directly, and I went through an experience with a couple of hundred other people, and we saw something spectacular. And I'm thinking to myself, I've got a fork in the road in front of me. Mm. I'm hosting Coast to Coast. I've got my TV show. I've got Fade to Black. I have a platform. I speak to literally millions of people a night, right?
Right.
Do I say something or do I not? And if I don't say anything, then everybody that was just standing next to me doesn't have that support.
Right.
Right. Or I do say something about it, and then I've got to take the criticism, and I got to sound like the crazy people that I used to listen to late at night on the radio.
Yeah, but Jimmy, it's very true. And I get that so well, because one of the reasons that Lee and I didn't pursue the first 18-hour batch of time was because we were investigating Mexico. How can investigators keep that investigative hat on and be an experiencer? So it was like, okay, to separate the two for the time. But when we got to the point where, okay, Mexico's doing its thing, the world's doing its thing, you don't necessarily want the two tied together, but I still
you don't want to be the story. Yeah, you don't want to be the story.
No, I'm a hermit.
But you can't become part of the story.
That's right.
And that's what I did for the first few years. I did not talk about my personal stuff at all. Mm-hmm. I just didn't. I didn't want to become part of the story. Right. And but then like I said, it was like a fork in the road where these people that I'm around and we go through an experience together, and it's like, would Anderson Cooper go on the air and talk about this? Probably not. No. So do I want to be Anderson Cooper? No, because I think that's wrong. Mm-hmm. And they need that support too. They do. Mm-hmm. They need to be able to go, see, Jimmy Church was there. He was just on he's talking about it right now. I told you I'm not crazy. I was there. So I chose to go down that road. And right. I don't care anymore. Yeah. I'm out of the closet. I'm just
well, as of tonight, so am I. So
yeah, apparently so. Apparently so. What would let's go back to Lee for a second. if he heard you live, doing this right now, would he be okay with it?
Yeah. And he'd be laughing. He would be having fun with it. And I would be teased a lot, but that's cool. Yeah. He was never, like you said, he could be intimidating and controlling and all of those things. Not with me. He always told me to do what I wanted to do, what I needed to do for me. He was never, ever putting me someplace and pigeonholing me. That was really cool.
What about the preponderance of fakery today? Does that bother you?
Yeah, a lot, because, and especially with AI. Oh man. I mean, we are facing, how are you going to determine what's real and what isn't anymore? It's going to be really difficult. So it's going to be an individualized reality. I really believe that.
Well, okay.
We can't see it land on the White House lawn anymore and not wonder, did we create it? Is it AI? Is it a hallucination?
Brit, that's going to happen.
I know.
That's going to happen. Somebody is going to create the craziest, awesomest video we've ever seen. And it's going to go out there and you know what I mean? It's not a question of if anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to happen. But let me tell you why I think that is, I think it's kind of okay.
Really?
Hear me out though. There's logic to my sick mind. It starts a conversation.
True.
Yeah, that's the part where it's the Tic Tac video, the gimbal, the Go Fast video. I don't see ET in any of that. Yeah. It's the support from behind the scenes, right? The pilot testimony and the Princeton and right, Kevin Day and everything else. So there's that. But I don't see ET in those videos. But it got the conversation going, didn't it?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. It would get the conversation going, but where does the conversation go after it begins?
Yeah, I know. That's the paradox. Yeah. That's the conundrum, right?
Absolutely.
That's the conundrum. And when somebody videos something and they see something and they shoot it, now there's no way you can know if it's us or them or if it's supernatural, paranormal. You don't know.
Right.
But you have the film or you have the video. I just said film. I just showed my age. But you have is footage still correct? Can you say
footage is still correct, yes.
Yeah, footage is still correct. So do you sit on it? Yeah. Or do you show it to others or do you release it if you don't know what it is? And that's the other part with this. Shouldn't you get other eyes on it? Somebody that is maybe more sensible and to pull this apart. What do you do with it once you've shot it?
Well, I think when you've shot it, you've shot something. All right. Now, assuming there's no trickery in it, you've shot something. Yes, put it out there. Let it be seen. Let it be looked at. Let it be correlated to other things that are similar. That's where I think we can start really gaining some insight and knowledge here. If we start coordinating, this is happening at this location, this is happening at this location, the ships are identical, triangulating them over a city, triangulating them across the world, it doesn't matter. If it's out there, it's exposing people to things that they might not otherwise have access to or think about. So I think the more this happens, the more footage comes out, even the more experiences that come out will help people open up and be receptive to possible extraterrestrial contact, but definitely contact with each other.
Do you think that we'll be able to understand? Let's say the contact, I mean, like on an official level, right? I mean, it's like the movie Arrival. Stuff is going on in different cities around the world, that kind of situation.
Right.
We're making a conversation.
Yeah.
Are we able to, if they can get here, Brit, they're above us.
Yep.
No matter how
Technically,
smart we use it.
absolutely. Yeah.
Right? Would we be able to understand what they would want to convey?
Would we want to understand what they would say? Yeah. I think we could understand it if they use telepathy, if they use language translators like the Pleiadians had with Billy. Yeah, I think we could understand it. But would we want to understand it? That is, I think, the bigger question.
In my regression, I want your comment on this. I don't have the crazy experience. It wasn't telepathy. I wasn't told to save the world. I wasn't told about a nuclear future. When I got none of that. I didn't get any of the good stuff. But let me tell you what did happen that was strange.
Mm-hmm.
They were speaking English.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, their mouths were moving.
Mm-hmm.
And they were speaking, and this is what came out of my mouth, by the way. This is what I said. I said they were talking Californian.
Interesting.
Yeah, isn't that strange?
Yeah.
I've never heard anybody say anything like that. I remember I went back and watched the tape. It's like, what did I say?
Californian.
Yeah, yeah. And I heard it. I heard what they were saying. And it
Could
was
you relate to what it was that made it Californian?
Yeah, it was. Okay, man. Okay, this is where, look, everybody's just got to take off your belief hat and just listen to me. Okay, that's all I can say, because I know how crazy this sounds. They were sitting, facing away from me in this like space. I don't know how to explain it, but call it a room. I don't have another way to put it right now. But on the far side of the room, this guy's back is to me. There's like three sitting facing the wall, like at a desk or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, he's hunched over, and I could see this side of his face. He's like this. I see this side of his face, and I see him talking into something. I don't know if it's a microphone or what, but it doesn't matter.
Right.
But somebody's talking back to him, and this is what he says. And the voice came back, but he's like, yo man, what's up? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Everything cool? Yeah, it's cool. We're here. All right. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Right on. Okay. All right. Yeah. Talk to you later. Okay. All right. It was like that.
Wow.
It wasn't like this. They weren't talking physics.
Yeah.
They weren't talking Andromeda. They weren't talking propulsion systems or cleaning up the pollution on the earth. They're curing cancer. No, it was like that. And the voice coming back was talking in the same way. And it sounded official, but it sounded official between like two soldiers talking or something. I don't, like that. I don't know how have another way to put it, but it just,
but that's so interesting weird. Because were they communicating that way to make you feel more comfortable?
I don't know. I've thought about that so much, and I don't think so, because I was only there for about 5 seconds. Okay, so I only stepped into this or appeared, vaporized, whatever you want to call it, and I show up, and there was this group. Anyway, there were two guys, and they were black, by the way, black. And so that part was kind of weird, but I could see the face and stuff, but they were like fuzzy and out of focus. That's the way I want to put it.
Okay.
They were black silhouettes. So anyway, the two guys are talking. They got their back to me, and they're holding like something. I'll hold up this coffee. They got like something between them, and they're like talking about it, and they're both looking down, and I see that. And it's just for a second, and they both turn and look at me like this and kind of nodded their head and then went back to what they were doing. And I'm scanning, and I thought, oh, that was kind of weird. It was like they were like, right? Gave me one of those.
Wow.
And that's when I see the guy talking, and I just kind of looked around the room and kind of went back and then kind of looked at everybody, and then floop, I was back on Earth.
Wow.
Yeah.
So maybe you just needed to have that experience of being out there to recognize that is true. Where was this in a timeline of what you've been doing with your life?
Yeah, this was, what month is this? This was July of last year.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was in Palm Springs. Yep.
And what were we talking about? Finding what you are really about right now?
You know, and you know, just like you and Lee, and I'm so glad that I can get your insight on this because you get it. So I'm talking with Billy and Elizabeth, who were standing next to me when all of this happened. We're on the top of this mountain.
Uh-huh.
And so I asked Billy, I said, at that moment, did I disappear? And he goes, no, man. No, you were there the whole time. I said, did I act strange? No. But we were all looking up at the craft. I said, yeah, I remember that. I do. Yeah. And he's right about that. We were all watching this. That was the other part about this. So I wanted to ask you about Lee. Billy didn't see anything strange in me.
Uh-huh.
With you and Lee, did you guys, through any of those experiences, did you notice anything different about your other half?
Yeah. I noticed Lee becoming more and more sensitive to everything, primarily animals, kids, people, each other. But with him, he never mentioned anything that he saw with me. But with him, I did notice that. Very sensitive, very... He couldn't tolerate seeing an animal hurt at all. I mean, no, that was just something that drove him nuts, and the same with kids. But he just developed a sense of real heartfelt understanding about people, and that it was okay that they be who they needed to be.
Oh, and what about the other aspect with this, which I think is obvious? There's a conscious, I don't know how to describe it, but there's a connection.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what that is. If we have an antenna, right? Some kind of beacon, if we glow.
Energy, frequency.
Yeah. I don't know, but I think that there's something going on. And then I think there's a connection with the possible. I can't explain it all the way the same way, but something interdimensional. In other words, you're going, dudes, I'm here.
Yeah.
Show me something. And then boop,
you're going to see something. Yeah.
Right. But it comes and goes like it's interdimensional. Have you
seen that many times? Yeah.
Yeah. How do you explain it away? I know it sounds so crazy to other people, but this is what we are experiencing.
But when you see it, it isn't crazy. It is so real. I mean, it's like thumping on the desk. It's real, that real. So when you have that experience, that reality becomes yours. And it is like either an interdimensional or a shift a frequency. Like right now, there's a company that has developed it's a clear plastic screen that you can be behind, and it will not see you, but it will see behind you.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So it's that same type of thing. Are they shutting off an area where we can no longer see them and then reappearing over here? Or are they actually making a transition between vibrations, frequencies, dimensions, whatever you want to call them? Or are they just literally blinking out at a hyperspace speed that we can't visually capture? So there's a lot of different things there. But wow, once you see that, and I have, and you have, and many others have, it is a part of reality. And it's like, okay, it's not anything you question anymore. And when you see it again, you go, all right, I get it. It's there. It's just something that I don't know what it is, if it's interdimensional, or if it's that shift in time or that screen or whatever you want to call it. But something is definitely happening.
So what a great conversation tonight. And I don't want it to end, but as we wind things down, where do we go from here? And last night, I want you to think about that for a second. Last night I was watching, I hadn't seen it in a while. It happened to pop up as a suggestion, 2010. All right. Part 2 of 2001. And that opening scene in that, when Bowman goes, my God, it's full of stars. Right. That thing. Well, okay. It's like that big.
Yeah.
It's that big of a deal. And we need to grasp hold of that. It's bigger than us. Yeah. Where do we go from here?
Maybe we start with ourselves and figuring out who we are as individuals and how we contribute to not only ourselves, but every single thing and everyone around us, and then expand that into the cosmos from there. But I think it starts with self.
Starts with the micro and gets to the macro.
Yeah. And I think the reason it has to start with self is you have to find your own truth, your own level of understanding, and in that find your own respect for what you know, not believe, but know to be factual. And it starts with
how long did it take you to become so cool? You have to recognize the moment of finding bliss.
Yeah.
And that's the change. Have you found your bliss?
I have. Oddly enough, I'd have to say I've had it many times. I've experienced bliss in growth stages. Yeah.
I think that's the key.
Yeah.
You don't have to read some giant thick book on philosophy.
No.
You don't. You really don't. If that's what you choose to do, that's up to you. But really, just find your bliss.
It's about getting inside yourself, figuring out who you are, what life is to you, what you want to do with you, and then you can explore and you can share. And to me, that's where it really gets fun, is when you're sharing, when you're exploring conversations like this. This is just, I mean, not only to come out with the missing time and stuff like that, but I feel like I'm talking to an old friend. So this is really a great way to help share information.
Perfect night, Brit. Perfect night. And but really quick, when will the re-releases come out? And when they do, where can we go and get them?
Okay, the book, Contact from the Pleiades, Volume 1 and Volume 2, the 45th Anniversary Edition. It's 200 pages, 10 inches square. It's great. It's got new information and all the old information in it, too. It's out April 23rd. The documentary film, it's next week.
5 days.
Yeah, I'm very excited about it. Really thrilled to have this out now because it does have a whole new generation to play with, which hopefully it'll get them thinking in the right direction. And the documentary UFO Contact from the Pleiades, which we made back in 1982 and is going to be released probably in May of this year.
Can I ask you a personal question? I don't know if you, when was the last, do you still talk to Billy?
Yeah. In fact, we're setting up a Zoom call for the weekend after this. But he and I converse via email and on the phone. Yes.
How old is he?
He's 87.
Yeah, 87. Wow. Wow, incredible. Well, okay, so just let me know when the books are officially out so we can get it out there on social media for you and make the announcement. And I look forward to our next conversation. We left so much on the table tonight, but perfect night for me.
I appreciate this. Took 10 years. Let's not wait that long next time.
Listen, young lady, don't stop, okay?
I promise.
All right. I'll talk to you. Thank you, Brit.
Thank you.
Perfect night. Brit Elders, everybody. The links are below. We've got them over on their website and throughout social media. And like she said, Volume 1 and Volume 2 are out on the 23rd. Today's the 18th. That's 5 days. So when I get the information, I will share it with all of you. What a perfect night on the show. Thank you so much, Brit. Behave and be well. I am your host, Jimmy Church. And like I've always said, tonight is my Friday. So I'm going to get my weekend started, which means I'm just going back to work and getting ready for Monday. Fade to Black is produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee Newman, and Michelle Freed. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Dex. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Genocide. Thank you, Jessica. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy. SpaceboyMusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network, and this broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2024 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Until Monday, I want you to be safe. Go Backley Tappy.